Yeah, greetings, people. Doc Martin, criminologist, educator, social commentator, and creative arts practitioner here. Welcome to the Roadman's Guide, a podcast chat show about life and issues from the ends, aka the inner city, the road, or just the streets. And you know something? Despite the bad press, negative labeling, distorted myths, and inaccurate portrayals, people in the end survive, live normal lives, and contribute to the betterment of our community. This is down to positive, strong-willed and self-determined individuals, groups and organisations who work tirelessly to make the community a better place, where there's hope, optimism and, more importantly, a sense of belonging. The Roadman's Guide is about giving a platform to those individuals who can voice the concerns, give us insights, pass on the wisdom and offer solutions to the complex nature of life in the ends. But more importantly, the Roadman's Guide is about the community, for the community. So get involved, come onto the show and talk, become a listener, as well as giving us some feedback to shape, guide and improve what we do. Greetings, people. Welcome to the Roadman's Guide. About 18 months ago, I was at a party and I was sitting, and I'm nearly 60 now, and I was sitting there next to someone who was in her late 70s, and I thought that I was cool with the younger generation, and a group of youths come in, all like 10, and I suddenly started screaming and shouting to turn the lights off, turn the lights on, switch the music down. I just lost it. And I just thought, I'm getting old. And what I realised is I'd started losing faith in the younger generation. Now, the relevance of it, today's show, is about what happens when you've given up. What happens when you've had enough? What happens when you've been doing a job for 25 years, you don't want to do it no more? What happens if you're in a relationship with someone who you met when you were 17 and you're now in your late 30s, you don't want to be with them no more? So, for me, our guest that I'm going to introduce today is somebody that actually wants to talk about finding hope when you've lost it. And you know, there's a lot of us out there. You look at the statistics for suicide, you look at the statistics for alcohol, substance misuse, self-harm, it's huge. But because this show is about solutions, not the problem, we're going to talk to someone today who's going to we're going to have a discussion about that. So, first, I want to say I'd like to welcome to Paulette. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
I have to say something before we get into it. It's nice to have someone who's looking so colourful.
Thank you.
Because, you know, when you've been in a studio and it's a bit dreary sometimes, it's nice to see someone dressed so bright. So, welcome. Customary on the show, before we actually get into talking about any of the issues, nobody knows who you are, or your family might, or whatever. So tell us a little bit about Paulette.
Okay, I'm Paulette. I'm in my mid-50s, born and bred in Handsworth, lived in Handsworth or surrounding areas all my life, and have worked in a number of arenas from the NHS, nursing.
Before we get to that,
Yeah.
How does somebody get to their mid-50s and look like they're about 35, 40? Because I'm 60 and I just about look it now. So can you just, before we get into that, what is it?
I think it's a combination of my genes, that's one, and I've learned not to take on a lot of stress anymore. I have learned to look after myself.
Can I ask a question? Did your ability to not get stressed, is that something that came later on in life, or did you develop that from when you was young?
That came later on in life.
So tell us a little bit about your early years then. Paulette Jr.
Paulette Jr., I'd say perhaps at the age of about 11, my mom became a single mother. And she grew us up as a single mother. I knew my dad, but my dad moved out of the home. And for me, that was quite traumatic. I went to school, and predominantly a school where people had parents, would talk about mom and dad. I would only talk about my mom. And that affected me quite a lot. And I'd say in my early years, I realised that that was my first form of rejection I felt, coming from a significant other, which followed a trend.
How did that manifest itself? I mean, did you become aggressive at school? Did you project it outwards, or did it become an inward thing?
I think it became quite an inward thing, and I became quite shy, internal. I wouldn't talk about my feelings. I wouldn't share my feelings with anyone.
How old was you when you began to process it? Because schools in particular talk about pastoral support. At the age of 11, when you was at school, year 7, was there any pastoral support that recognised that you're going through this difficult period?
No, there wasn't any at all.
So how long did you carry it for?
Right through my schooling. And the thing about it, my mum attended all my parents' evening. I didn't have a father that attended a parents' evening. I felt it was a stigma of not having a father that attended a parent evening. And it was just my mum that carried most of the weight of everything.
So when you left school, say 16, 17, was you still carrying that with you then?
I did. I carried it. I carried it with me when I left school, right into college and right into my career, into my teens, into my 20s and 30s.
So what is it about that experience that made it difficult to get rid of it?
I think it was mainly feeling rejected, feeling a loss. Although I knew my dad and although I saw my dad, it was not the same of having him make a major input in my life like my mum. I felt my mum was a mother and a father, and my father was an absent father. And the thing that was most painful for me is I had to watch my father raise another family as his own, which weren't his biological children, but placed a lot more energy into them.
Can I ask a question on the back of this? Because I think as a man and as a father, we sometimes don't have these conversations. For women who suffered the deficit of a father's absence, how did that affect the way that you formed relationships with men in the early part of your growing up?
Funnily enough, I entered a relationship perhaps at the age of 18, and it was out of a rebellion. It was really out of a rebellion. I met someone who I found a friendship in, I formed a friendship in, who later became my partner. But I still had some resentment within myself. And I think I was searching for that sort of father figure from my partner. And what I had lacked from my father, I was looking for that from a partner, which I didn't totally receive either.
So what was the tipping point that started? I mean, what was the point in which that began to change when you started to embrace a different you?
When I had my daughter and I became a single mother because my daughter's father got murdered and he disappeared out of her life at a very young age. And I then realised the role became similar to my mum, where I again became a mother and a father for a number of years.
But going through a traumatic incident, I mean, obviously you got to a new place, but at the point when all of that's going on, how did you manage all of that chaotic trauma that was going on? Or did you wake up one morning and you was just changed?
I think I saw a lot of resilience in my mum. That's what I saw in my mum, a lot of resilience in my mum. And around my family, I did have some other male role models. And I did look up to the other male role models that I had. But a lot of that resilience came from what I saw in my own mother.
So take us a bit through, because you've gone through the personal journey. How did your journey in terms of employment and choice of work, how did that work? Did it work alongside the personal?
Funnily enough, I went to school in the inner city and I never ever forgot my last assembly. At the age of 16, we were all in assembly and the head of the school basically said we will all not mount to anything. It was very negative. And to the girls, she says, you'll all leave and you'll end up with babies as single mothers. And to the male, you'll probably end up in prison on the streets. That was the speech from our head at my school. And I made a decision at about the age of 18 that I was going to reverse that, because to me it was like a prophecy and I didn't want to fulfill that prophecy. So I fought against that prophecy.
What did you end up doing? Did you go to college, university? Did you go and get a job? I mean, what happened next?
I ended up pursuing a nursing career, and I qualified as a nurse about 3 years after leaving school and worked in nursing for 10 years. I then faced quite a lot of racism in nursing, and there weren't any scope for me to sort of climb the ladder. So I decided again, in fighting back, that I'd go to university and get a degree. So I then went and got a degree in social science with a social work prerequisite and went down the route of education, because I then wanted to become a careers advisor, which is what I became, to empower, inspire and enable other young people, which I've done for about 18 years.
As you're doing all of this and you're raising your daughter, how did you kind of manage raising your daughter, connecting to your mom, dealing with the trauma of your partner's passing? I mean, what was happening when all of this was going on? And did you become Superwoman? What I'm saying is, how did you manage all of the responsibilities that you had?
I generated a support network.
Can you just talk a bit about, because there's a lot of people in our community who are lonely, isolated, who the idea of generating a network. I mean, you go to a shop in Lazelle's and say, can I buy a generated network? I mean, practically, how did you generate a network? What did you do?
Now, the first point of call really was, again, to my mum, because my mum was there for me. And I drew on my mum, and if it wasn't for my mum, I wouldn't have even been able to work, because when my daughter was young, and as I said, I became a single mother, she was the one that helped me with childcare. But prior to that, as I said, there was a time when I rebelled, and there was a time when I did pull away from my own family and I didn't really interact with them. So I did experience a time of isolation and a time where I had to search for myself and what I felt was needed and what needed to change within my own life.
So when you're doing all of this, I mean, you've got all of this responsibility going on. Did you find any space for yourself outside of all of that? Because all of those other things are labels. I'm a daughter, I'm a mom, I'm a worker, I'm a colleague. Where did Paulette find time for Paulette?
Paulette didn't find time for Paulette initially, to be honest. I didn't find time for Paulette. I felt I was just on a fast track and a lot of things were going on around me and within my mind, psychologically.
So what were you like back then? I mean, what when you was in that phase, what was your personality?
I was quite shy. I was very shy, quite introvert. I held a lot of pain within, to be honest. I had a lot of friends, but I never expressed and showed them what I was going through. So there were times when I would just be in my home. I wouldn't entertain anyone. I wouldn't go out. And there were another time where I would go out to parties. I'd socialise with friends, and it flipped. It flipped from week to week, from month to month. So I would be up 1 minute and I'd be down another minute.
Would you ever say that there was a period when you was depressed?
I'm not sure I'd say I was depressed, but I remember I lived in a tower block on the 9th floor, and my daughter was about 3 months old, and emotionally I felt I became a bit unstable. I felt trapped within the flat. I lived in Newtown. There was a lot of things going on. There were high social deprivation, high employment. I wasn't working. And there was a time when I thought, if I don't get out of this flat and I don't get any help, I'm going to go downhill.
So what was the turning point? Because again, yet another situation arises. So what did you do? Did your mum did you go back to your mum and say, Mum, I've had enough of this. I want to change it. I mean, what was the tipping point for this next phase then?
I didn't go back to my mum because, as I said, it was a period when I rebelled, and I was quite isolated from my mum and my family for a short period when my daughter was born. And although they were there for me, I felt I couldn't open up to what I was going through at the time. And so I spoke to a friend, a very, very close friend who had gone through a similar situation. And together, we both made a decision that we were going to change the situation and change our lifestyle. And from that, I just decided to go back